7 Ways Chicago Fire Can End Carver and Violet's Romance in Season 14. The powers that be will, likely, break Sam Carver and Violet McCamey up in Chicago Fire Season 14, as their story can't continue if only one of them is around. Ahead of the Season 13 finale, NBC announced that 2 major Chicago Fire characters are leaving the show. Carver, played by Jake Lockett, and Darren Ritter, played by Daniel Peary. Their exits came as a shock, given that the series never hinted at their departures. Plus, the entirety of Season 13 felt like it was building up to a reunion between Carver and Violet, adding to the confusion behind Carver's exit. The Chicago Fire Season 12 finale ended with Carver and Violet split. They weren't officially together because Violet didn't want to give her heart to a first responder after losing Evan Hawkins. However, Carver fell in love with Violet, which he admitted to her during a fight. He then took a furlough, and upon his return, Violet was ready to open up to him. Their timing wasn't right again, though, as Carver had a new girlfriend. They still spent most of Season 13 pining for one another. But now, with Lockett's exit, Carver and Violet won't get a real chance in Chicago Fire. The most obvious way for Chicago Fire Season 14 to end Carver and Violet's love story would be for him to go through with his plan to transfer to the Denver Fire Department. After everything he went through in Season 13, Carver felt like he needed a fresh start. He thought he could get that by moving out of Chicago. Unfortunately, that meant that Carver would also be leaving Violet behind, which is why he hesitated to leave during the Season 13 finale. Chicago Fire Season 13 ended with Carver kissing Violet and telling her that he was in love with her. She said it back to him, and the episode concluded on a blissful note for the couple. Carver and Violet's happy scene made many skeptical of Jake Lockett's previously reported exit, because it implied that the two had finally reunited after a season of a will-they/want-they slow burn. Season 14 can still reverse their romantic ending and reveal that Carver went to Denver after all. It's wholly possible that Carver doesn't even end up going to Denver in between Chicago Fire Seasons 13 and 14. He could choose to go home to Texas instead. Despite all the painful history he has there, Carver might decide that he needs to confront his past on his road to sobriety. The only way he can do that is to return to Texas. While Carver is there, he could decide to stay, making his breakup with Violet and Chicago Fire exit permanent. Given that Carver and Violet's final scene in Chicago Fire Season 13 was of them happy and in love, it would make sense for Season 14 to begin with them still together. The premiere opening with Carver and Violet broken up would just feel too abrupt. So the writers could take the Brett and Casey route from Chicago Fire Season 10 by placing the couple in a long-distance relationship. Carver would be able to go to Denver and still be with Violet, just like Casey did with Brett. However, we all know how that situation played out. Brett broke up with Casey at the beginning of Season 11, because the distance was too hard for her. Perhaps Carver and Violet could handle it better. But the odds are against them. The good news is that Brett and Casey ultimately found their way back to one another and got married in Chicago Fire Season 12. If Brett and Casey can be endgame despite Jess Spencer's exit, so can Carver and Violet. Carver, and another character who shall not be named, partly attributed his alcoholism to being close to Violet almost every day in Chicago Fire Season 13. Of course, he would never blame her. But Carver cared about Violet so much, and it was difficult to see her and not be with her. In spite of their final kiss and love admission, Carver and Violet could choose not to pursue a relationship, given their baggage and his sobriety journey. Consequently, Carver decides to stay in Chicago, but not at Firehouse 51. As previously alluded to, Carver's Chicago fire season 13 story was rough. With everything he has been through, Jake Lockett's character might decide that he wants to leave firefighting behind completely, resulting in his breakup with Violet. This theory might not be the strongest. However, the NBC procedural drama isn't exactly known for its realism or consistency, meaning that anything could cause Carver and the auditor warning the Chicago Fire characters about looming layoffs and forced retirements in Season 13, Episode 20. Carver could be one of the firefighters affected by the Chicago Fire Department's budget cuts, just like how NBC booted Lockett from the Chicago Fire cast. As a result, Carver is forced out of the CFD and has to look for work in other cities. Carver getting fired or quitting could prompt him to end his relationship with Violet, who will undoubtedly stay in the Windy City in Season 14. It might be difficult to imagine, given how in love Violet seemingly is with Carver, but the One Chicago universe could end their romance by giving her a different love interest. The writers could distract the viewers from Carver's disappointing exit with someone new and enticing. It'd be quite difficult for the Chicago Fire producers to pull a fast one on its fans, though, which makes this option tricky. They would have to introduce a character who has fantastic chemistry with Violet, is instantly charming, and whose presence makes sense for the show's story. Based on the events of the Chicago Fire Season 13 finale, Carver's death would come out of left field. The episode didn't conclude with Carver, or any character for that matter, in peril. It didn't foreshadow or tease his death. And yet, Carver's possible death isn't out of the question. The problem is that Carver's death would have to happen off-screen, because Lockett has exited the series, and that would be a complete disservice to his character. The writers killing off another one of Violet's love interests would also be cruel. So while Carver dying in between seasons 13 and 14 would certainly put an end to his and Violet's romance, his death is more unlikely than other possibilities. Whatever the case, fans will have to wait until the Chicago Fire Season 14 premiere to learn Carver's fate and how his and Violet's love story ends. Picture this. The two find their spark fading not in a dramatic showdown, but in the most human way, through the daily grind. Carver finds himself increasingly called away on specialized missions or temporary promotions, a spot on a rescue team, a short tour with squad, while Violet finds her responsibilities growing in the paramedicine department. The physical separations start small, a few days here, a weekend there, until it evolves into a permanent rift. Instead of a dramatic breakup scene, their love simply slips through their hands, piece by piece. There's a touching moment when Violet finds an old photo of them smiling at Molly's. She lets it go, understanding that sometimes relationships fade not because of a dramatic incident, but because two people grow in different directions. To the big secret that shatters trust between them. Every strong couple has a test, a trial that reveals their true character. If Carver were hiding something from Violet, say, a past incident from his Army days or a legal trouble that resurfaces, this revelation could undermine their bond. Violet, fiercely protective of her own peace, might find it hard to stay with someone who kept something so big from her. Picture a dramatic episode where a hidden folder drops on Chief Bowden's desk, threatening Carver's future at 51 and forcing him to come clean. Violet feels blindsided and unsure if their relationship can survive a breach of trust. The two confront their doubts in a raw rooftop scene, overlooking the city. It's a dramatic, painful goodbye, not filled with rage, but with the sad acknowledgement that some things are greater than love. 3. The job conflict. Careers over love. For first responders, the job is not just a paycheck. It's a calling. If a promotion opportunity came up for Violet, say, a chance to lead her own paramedicine team, And for Carver, a specialized training opportunity, their paths might diverge. Picture Violet excitedly letting him know about her promotion, only for him to reveal he's headed to a specialized academy in another state. The two realize their goals, while pure, are incompatible. It's a dramatic moment under a purple-orange sunset, where the two say goodbye with promises to stay friends and pursue their passions, honoring the love that once blossomed between them. For the love triangle, an old flame resurfaces. Picture this dramatic twist. Someone from Carver's past, a former lover or close friend, finds their way back into his life. At first, it's an innocent reconnect, a chance for Carver to find peace with something left unfinished. But soon sparks fly, doubts arise, and Violet finds herself unsure if she's battling a ghost from his past.